Welcome back. I'm Tommy McCarthy. We are Cyber News Global, and this is Let's Talk Cyber. And wow, we're going to talk about cyber today. I'm delighted to welcome along, yes, the one and only Irene Coyle. Welcome, Irene. Irene, we're going to talk about knocking your cyber training out of the park. Wow, what a provocative title, knock your cyber training out of the park for a former Chief Inspector of Police Scotland. Wow, what can I say? But before we get into that, Irene, please give our listeners a little bit of a background about who you are, where you've come from, and what you're doing now.
Thanks, Tommy. I'm delighted to be part of this podcast. And you mentioned a little bit there about me being in the police. So my background is 30 years as a police officer in Scotland. I was really fortunate in my career to have a number of different senior roles. And most of those roles were about protecting vulnerable people's data. So I was a detective inspector in the Public Protection Unit and involved in the development of a vulnerable persons database, which was then ultimately rolled out nationally across all of Police Scotland. And then as a Chief Inspector at Recruitment in Police Scotland, I was responsible for implementing GDPR, that dreaded word that most people don't like to hear. So I was responsible for rolling that out across the entire recruitment function. And that was just to ensure that obviously we, as a public authority, were still protecting personal data. Now, all my roles, I suppose, across the police for that 30 years was about protecting people. And then for the last 6 years, since I've been with OSP Cyber Academy, I've been focusing on protecting data again, but from a digital perspective and focusing on the human element involved in information and cybersecurity. And then somewhere along the way on that 30-year journey, I've also obtained 2 teaching degrees. And that really helps me being able to focus on the training delivery, which is an aspect that I really, really enjoy.
Wonderful, Irene. Well, you've certainly got a lot of experience, that's for sure, from both the policing background and incidentally, since you've become a civilian this last 5 or 6 years. And before we go into your subject, Irene, tell us a little bit more about your involvement with training, because I believe you've been involved with a variety of certification programs, both with previously GCHQ and now NCSC. What's the setup behind these certification and assurance programs? Why are they so important?
Yeah, OSP Cyber Academy are an NCSC, so the National Cybersecurity Centre Assured Training Provider. So that means our organisation and the way that we process data for delivering training for all our students and learners has to be assessed and at a government standard. It also means that the authors of our training material need to also be assessed so that they are again NCSC assured in terms of their knowledge and their experience to deliver and write training. So I'm assessed through the NCSC assured training programme. So an organisation that is looking at a training provider would be able to find OSP Cyber Academy and our courses on the NCSC website. So they're getting a guarantee that the content is UK government standard, but also the trainer that's delivering that content is also being assessed and at that level of standard as well.
Wonderful. So before we get into it, then I think it's fair to say we're in good hands. We're in safe hands. Yeah.
Safe hands, I like that.
And I'm not biased. Right, well, immersive training. I think what's important for me is to understand a little bit more about how immersive training would help information security training become a habit. Can you contextualize that for me a little? I'm just trying to get a better understanding as to how immersive training can really support information security.
Well, if I can kind of take it back a step, first of all, Tommy, one of the big things about why we've introduced immersive training to our many offerings of training is that I genuinely believe that to have an effective cyber security training programme, it's not a one-off event. So there has to be a number of things that you should, as an organisation, be considering to building into a cybersecurity training programme. So what happens normally in a normal organisation, people join that organisation and they get lots of training thrown at them as they're onboarded into the organisation. And that's absolutely fine. But it can be a little bit of information overload. And at that particular time, this new member of staff is actually thinking, oh gosh, all I really want to know is where do I go and make my coffee? So the whole point of the immersive training style is that you look at certain things to include in your training to make it more effective. So a couple of those things are the frequency and the recency of the signals passing from one neuron to the next will increase your memory. Now, I'm not going to get scientific, so please don't worry about that. That's the only kind of scientific thing that I'll mention. But that's all about tell people what you want them to know and tell them often. So we're trying to shift the focus from an annual task to an ongoing training programme. And that should include e-learning, training awareness. It should include workshops, team meetings, face-to-face training, newsletters. So an entire programme is going to help you build on that memory retention. So the more you provide information, the more chance that you're going to have that that message is actually going to land for your member of staff. The second thing is about emotions strengthen your memory. So you know and I know that when you're having fun, your brain releases dopamine. Now, according to the neuroscientist, Dr. Martha Burns, dopamine has a direct impact on your ability to remember. So the more fun you're having, the more you're going to have the dopamine, which means you're going to remember more. So our analogy for the immersive training is the more interested that you are in an activity, the more dopamine is released and the better you're going to remember the messaging from it. And that neurologist actually calls the dopamine the pressing the save button. So you're saving that memory. So it's a really, really effective way of delivering training to your staff across the organisation. And then the third element that we include in the immersive training is that your memories are stored in multiple parts of your brain. So research will suggest to you that memories are stored in many, many different parts of your brain. So different ways of learning will trigger different reactions and different connections. So if we engage as many senses as we can in a training session, then you're going to create more memories in many different parts of your brain, and that will ultimately reinforce your learning. So what our whole aspect, if you think about those three things that I've just gone over, is going to help enforce your learning. So your brain will be programmed to focus on what's new, what's an unusual way of learning. And then that will make your brain naturally more curious and you'll be more successful in your training. So that's the kind of basis behind how we've built the immersive training to capture those kind of three elements to make sure that the learning is better and will be remembered for longer.
Well, I did say let's not try and get it too technical, and you almost lost me there, but no, I completely understand what you're saying. And absolutely, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, how on earth are you going to take on board the information? So you're completely right. You know, the toughest challenge in the world that we all have is imparting knowledge and sharing good information so that people can actually take it away and use it valuably. So I guess from my point of view, could you tell me a little bit about how you actually deliver this immersive training? What's the concept behind it and how you deliver it?
Yeah, so what we try to do at OSP Cyber Academy is we want to have staff that are engaged and motivated, and in a situation where there's less stress, they're going to feel a lot less stress. So you don't do that by having quiet classrooms and directed lectures. You actually have an environment, so we create that environment and an atmosphere where the learning is good. It's a good atmosphere and a good environment for learning. So we'll pitch up at your organisation, and we call it our pop-up cyber escape room style exercise. So we'll pitch up with a suitcase, and all we need is a desk, and we will set up pieces of equipment that'll look like you're in a police officer's office environment. And then there's obviously some clues. There's some items that we want you to find. We want you to guess some of the hints that we've put in place and actually look through the items on the desk, maybe solve some lock passcodes. So you need to access more and more information. And the whole part of this is that you're acting as a team member. You're not actually meant to complete this exercise on your own without any facilitated learning in it. So there'll be key messages that the OSP trainer or facilitator will make sure come out around password security, phishing awareness. We speak about malware and the ransomware techniques and tactics, data breach awareness, and mobile device security. So doing that exercise as part of a team within an hour, you have an hour to complete it, you will be getting these key learning messages throughout. Now, I personally know from delivering training for a long number of years is that there is some people that will sit back in a team environment and they will let somebody else that's more vocal and more confident do all the things that they are needing them to do. But actually, the way that our pop-up exercise is run is that we have it designed so that every person in that team has a part to play in the exercise. So you can't complete it with just one person giving all the answers. And that's really important that everybody knows they have a part to play, because that's one of the messages that the cybersecurity training is all around. It's about how do you make sure that everybody within your organisation knows that they have a part to play to build your cyber resilience. It's not just, and you'll know this, Tommy, it's not just about the IT department having that responsibility. Everybody in that organisation has a part to play. So we've introduced this exercise, and it is meant to be part of an ongoing programme. We wouldn't recommend organisations only ever do this exercise. It needs to be built into your ongoing programme. But what it's really good at is training for people that don't want to be trained, because it's so much fun that people don't actually realise that they're learning as they're actually engaging in the activity. So it's fantastic from that point of view.
Now, I'm pleased to hear that, actually, one of the points you just made there, that you wouldn't just encourage this element of training to be the be-all and end-all, because, there's so many different things that we're all exposed to now in relation to threats and risks, that how on earth can one element of training be adequate enough? So I'm pleased to see that you said, whilst the immersive training is a great team exercise, and that I find is really important. There isn't just one member of the cybersecurity team. It's not just IT. It's not just the risk team. It's not just the SOC team. Cybersecurity is a collective effort, and surely team exercises like this are going to be absolutely beneficial to everybody. But from my point of view, how on earth are you on your own going to manage to deliver all of these potential courses? Is there a program in place where you can support other organizations to maybe nurture their own team members to take the lead on this? How does it work?
Yeah, obviously we deliver this to different size of organisations, and we're actually the exclusive training provider for the Cyber Centre of Excellence. So we deliver our NCSC training and the immersive training to public authorities right across the UK. And they are different sizes of those authorities or different sizes of private organisations that we're delivering it to. So there is options. We can either come and deliver it entirely. So we'll come to your offices, we'll deliver the training to your teams of people over the entire day. Or we can actually train your trainers or train people within your organisation that I personally would class as champions for information security, data protection and cyber security. We will train them, we'll give them the kit, and we'll train them what is the key messages that you're trying to get all the learners to know before the end of the session. So we'll either come and do it ourselves, we'll train your trainers, and we'll give them the kit and they can do it. And we can change the scenarios yearly, so it's different scenarios that you're putting your staff members through. So different options depending on the size and how you want it to work. You might want to run it yourself, as part of a corporate event that you're doing, or a part of a team building exercise. There's lots of different options that we can help you with.
Well, that's perfect. That's really interesting to know, because obviously most organizations are quite protective about how they integrate external training into their own organization. So the fact that you can champion one of their own in-house trainers, educate them, give them the tools to bring something new and inventive to the organization is a brilliant concept, and really enjoying the idea of that. I guess, as I ask most of our guests when they come along onto Let's Talk Cyber, what's your call to action, Irene? Listen to all the listeners out there right now. When it comes to training, what is your call to action for our listeners?
So my call to action would be, if you want to bring cybersecurity alive for your staff, who are not involved in information security. So we all know what we should be looking out for. Everybody else within an organisation does not know that if they're not in the information security area. So use this pop-up escape room style training, which is really engaging and very, very interactive and a great experience for them. We know certainly that studies have shown that people will retain up to 60% more information when they're having fun. So this training is designed to be fun for all of your staff members involved, and that will ultimately mean it's more effective in increasing your organisation's cybersecurity awareness. So in terms of call to action, provide a great team building experience with valuable skills that's going to help your organisation keep your data and the personal data of your employees safe. So get in touch with me or OSP Cyber Academy, and we can actually demo the immersive training over a 10-minute Teams call. So the joys of and the advancement of technology, we can actually show you an example of what that training would look like on a Teams call. So you don't have to have us come to your organisation and roll it out. We can actually give you a demo and talk it through with you.
Well, that's absolutely brilliant to know, because again, it's like everything else. Geographics sometimes makes training impractical, but the fact that you can demo this immersive training online before people need to engage any further is a brilliant idea. We could go on forevermore. I know that you've got so much life experience, especially 30 years in the police. I know you've been absolutely run ragged, for want of a better word, this last 5 years. Even throughout COVID, I know you were really busy. I also know that OSP Cyber Academy, just last December, became the UK's first Guinness World Records cybersecurity training provider. We will be coming back to that in a different podcast, Irene. I can't begin to thank you enough for a multitude of reasons. If anyone wants to know more about the immersive training we've talked about today, you'll see Irene's email address coming along the bottom just shortly. And if you like what you see, please give us a big thumbs up. This is a YouTube channel, so please subscribe, join us. There's lots of information coming your way. All that remains for me to say is Irene Coyle, Chief Operating Officer, OSP Cyber Academy. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks very much, Tommy. Thank you.